afternoon, everyone, especially to you, Ms. Chavez. We are the Group 5, and we are here today to discuss about historical and cultural context. By the way, I am Kimberly M. Humaway, together with my group mates,
China Nigadalio Catubis,
Buenafe Obinita,
Gian May Sapotalo,
Joyce Pilibioco,
Jian Kidabagasos,
Milagine De Jesus,
Colin May or Manaloyan,
and Presel Padao.
and the first reporter for today is Miss Joyce Libio.
Okay, to start with my report, we have here some three literatures that we will be going to discuss today. The first one would be ancient literature, medieval literature, and Renaissance literature. But today, we are going to have a report about the overviews and the reports of and the origins of ancient literature. So what is ancient literature? Ancient literature refers to the earliest written works of humanity. Earliest written works means it has been passed or it is a history or a work of humanity. It includes myths, legends, epics, religious texts, and philosophical writings. These works reflect the thoughts, beliefs, traditions, and daily lives of early civilizations. So, talking about early civilizations and their contributions, we have 5 civilizations that we will be going to talk about today or to the next reporters. The first civilization is Mesopotamian civilization. The second one is Egyptian civilization. The third one is Indian civilization. The fourth one is Greek civilization. And the last one is the Roman civilization. So these civilizations will be tackled about the next reporters, and we were going to focus about the themes and purposes of ancient literature. The purpose of ancient literature is to myths explain natural events and the origins of lives, while legends celebrate heroes and historical achievements. Epics conveyed moral lessons and cultural values. It reflected in your beliefs in God's faith, morality, and the human condition. So the significance of ancient literature, or the importance of ancient literature, is to preserve the wisdom and the culture of early societies. It laid the foundation for modern literature and storytelling. It offers insight into ancient literature, understanding of life, faith, and morality. It continues to influence literature, art, and philosophy today. In summarization of my report, ancient literature serves as the historical context of our literature today that helps art, philosophy, and other contexts that would be great in any literature. So to tackle more about ancient literature, my co-reporter Buenafe Obinita will explain about the famous works in ancient literature. That would be all. Thank you.
Now let's move on to the famous works in ancient literature. Let's talk about some of the most famous works in ancient literature. First, we have the Iliad and Odyssey from Greece, written by Homer. These two epics tell stories about heroism, war, and gods. The Iliad focuses on the Trojan War and the heroes Achilles, while the Odyssey follows Odysseus and his long journey home after the war. These stories shows the Greek values of bravery, loyalty, and respect for gods. Then the second, we have the Ramayana from India. This epic tells the story of Prince Rama, his wife Sita, and his battle against the demon King Ravana. It teaches important moral values such as truth, duty, loyalty, and victory of good over evil. The Ramayana is not just a story, it also serves as guide for living a righteous life. And the third one is, we have the epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia, known as one of the adventures together. When Enkidu's dies, Gilgamesh goes on a journey to search for immortality, showing his deep emotions and human desire to find meaning in life. So these famous ancient works shows that creativity, beliefs, and values of early civilization, and they contribute to inspire literature, art, and culture even today. That's all. Thank you.
Let's proceed to the themes and legacy. Ancient works like Iliad, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the Mahabharata explore timeless themes that still shape modern values and storytelling. Then the common themes here is bravery, faith, honor, and God versus humans. For us to understand clearly, let's tackle this one by one. Let's start with the word bravery. When we say bravery, what comes first in your mind? Bravery means heroes face danger and hardship to prove courage and strength. And then the faith, this means that stories questions how much control humans have our destiny or future. And then the third one is the honor. This means is reputation and moral integrity define a person or the person's worth in this ancient literature. And then the fourth one is God versus humans. This explores humanity's relationship with powers. And then for the modern connections, these lessons inspire these values, courage and adversity, loyalty, and to leadership guided by wisdom and integrity. Modern books and films continue to reflect these ideas of this ancient literature. And then the influence of this legacy is ancient stories shape Western epics or tragedies and modern heroes, as well as Eastern philosophies and moral traditions. And in short, these themes remind us that while the world changes, the research or purpose, honor and understand, but in this century, they endorse it. And
So good morning once again, everyone. Now let's talk about the medieval literature. Medieval literature, which refers to the body of written works produced in Europe during the Middle Age, roughly from the 5th century to 15th century. This period bridges the gap between the fall of this Western Roman Empire and the beginning of the Renaissance. Medieval literature includes a wide range of writings such as religious texts, epic poetry, romances, chronicles, and philosophical works, written not only in Latin but also in emerging vernacular languages like Old English, Old French, and Middle English. So here is an example of medieval literature. First, we have the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer of 1387 to 1400. The summary of this tale: the Canterbury Tales is a collection of stories told by pilgrims traveling from London to Canterbury Cathedral. The tales showcase medieval English society, exploring themes of love, morality, and social class. Another example is The Gardener's Tale, a short story within the collection. This tale teaches a moral lesson about the dangers of greed and gluttony, reflecting medieval values and social norms. Now, the literature of this period was deeply shaped by the main forces that define medieval society. We have Christianity, feudalism, and knighthood. Let's look at how each of these influenced the works of the time. First, we have the influence of Christianity. Christianity played the most powerful role in shaping medieval thought and writing. Since the church controlled education and writing, most authors were monks or scholars who wrote with religious purposes in mind. Many texts aimed to teach moral lessons, promote faith and salvation, and illustrate the divine order of the world. For example, the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri is a great example. It is an allegorical journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven that shows the soul path toward God. Another example is the lives of saints, called hagiographies, which told stories of holy men and women to inspire virtue and devotion. Even when stories were not strictly religious, they often carried Christian morals, because religion guided nearly all aspects of medieval thought and culture. Next, we have the influence of feudalism. Feudalism, the political and social system that structured medieval Europe. Feudal society was based on a strict hierarchy. Kings, nobles, knights, and peasants, all bound by loyalty and duty. This structure appeared clearly in literature. Many stories reflected obedience to authority, service to one's lord, and respect for social order. For example, in Beowulf, the hero shows loyalty to his lord and fights bravely for his people, reflecting the feudal idea of service. Chronicles and courtly tales often celebrated faithful vassals and noble rulers, reinforcing the importance of duty and hierarchy. Through these stories, literature became a mirror of feudal society, emphasizing the values of loyalty, faithfulness, and responsibility. Next, we have the influence of knighthood. Knighthood brought a new set of ideas that shaped medieval literature, especially through the Chivalry Code, which valued courage, honor, loyalty, and courtesy. Knights were not just warriors, they were expected to uphold moral virtues and protect the weak. These ideals gave rise to some of the most famous medieval stories. For instance, in the Song of Roland, the knight Roland bravely defends his king and his faith, embodying loyalty and heroism. In Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Sir Gawain faces moral and physical tests that explore what it truly means to be a knight of honor. The theme of worldly love also emerged during this time, where a knight showed noble devotion and respect toward a lady, often seen in Arthurian romances, like those about King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table. Knighthood thus inspired both heroic and romantic themes, shaping medieval ideas of bravery and blind love. So in conclusion, medieval literature reflects the world which it was created, a world ruled by faith, hierarchy, and honor. Together, these influences, Christianity, feudalism, and knighthood, created a rich and fascinating body of work that continues to shape Western literature and culture today. Next, for the better explanation of medieval literature, we have Miss Melody Jesus.
Now let's go on to the major famous works and writers in medieval literature. So there are two major works of medieval literature. First, we have the works of Dante Alighieri, Divine Comedy. So this is the example of the works of Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. So Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy is an epic poem written in the early 14th century that tells the story of the poet's spiritual journey through the realms of the afterlife, the hell, purgatory, and heaven. Guided by the Roman poet Virgil and later by his beloved Beatrice. So Dante explores the consequences of sin, the process of repentance, and the joy of salvation. So the poem serves not only as a vivid depiction of medical beliefs about the afterlife, but also an allegory of the human soul's journey toward God and moral enlightenment. So this work is the work of Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. So next is the Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. So Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, written in the 14th century, it is a collection of stories told by a group of pilgrims traveling to the shrine of St. Thomas Becket and Canterbury. So each pilgrim shares a tale reflecting their personality, background, and views on society, creating a lively picture of medieval English life. So through humor, satire, and moral lessons, Chaucer reveals the virtues and flaws of human nature, while offering insight into the social classes and values of his time. So this too is the major works of the medieval literature. That will be all. Thank you.
Alright, now let's move on to the themes and features of medieval literature. This part helps us understand what ideas and messages that writers wanted to share during the Middle Ages and how they expressed their faith through their stories. Medieval literature often focuses on important spiritual and moral lessons. Some of its main themes include sin and salvation. It reminds people to avoid sin and seek forgiveness through faith. The second one is the faith and devotion. It shows strong trust and obedience to God. The third one is the love. Not just romantic love, but also love for God, family, and humanity. And lastly is the morality. It teaches what is right and wrong based on Christian values. Writers also use creative ways to express these ideas through allegories and symbolism. When I say allegory, it is a story with a hidden or deeper meaning. For example, in the Divine Comedy, Dante's journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven represents the soul's journey towards God's salvation. Symbolism is also very common. For instance, light often symbolizes truth or God's goodness, while darkness stood for evil or sin. These literary tools help readers reflect on their own faith and moral choices. So overall, medieval literature was not only about knights and castles. It was about faith, morality, and the search for spiritual truth. And for the Renaissance literature, may I call Ms. Claudine Malangweton.
We will discuss about Renaissance literature. So the word Renaissance comes from French, which means rebirth. It comes from the period in Europe from 14th to 17th century when people started to value new learning and curiosity. So looking back at the old ideas and the old classical texts, just like in ancient Greece and Rome, they were trying to improve the literature, art, and science. So during this period, the people, the humans or the writers began to become interested in human life, not just only religion. So they were trying to explore, create, and learn new things. Education, art, and science became very abundant and became very important during this period. And with the help of the printing press helps it makes the knowledge become easier because the printing press helps to print books and ideas which helps print and spread the knowledge faster. So humanism is the belief that humans can learn and make great achievements through knowledge and effort. And because of this belief, they were trying to improve the literature by focusing on individual and also on human behavior, just like in life struggles, human emotions, and everything. They were not only focusing on the nature and the world itself, or the religion, or the church, but the human life. So, because of this belief, it greatly affects the authors or some of the writers and their works, just like William Shakespeare, Niccolo Machiavelli, and Miguel de Cervantes, which will be reported by the next reporter, Ms. Jane May Sapatalo.
So once again, good morning, and let's talk about the famous authors and works of Renaissance literature. So first we have William Shakespeare. So William Shakespeare, an English playwright and poet known as the Bard of England. He wrote famous plays about love, power, and tragedy. So these are the works of William Shakespeare, which is Romeo and Juliet. So Romeo and Juliet is one of the works of William Shakespeare. So Romeo and Juliet is a tragic love story about two young lovers from feuding families in Verona, Italy. Despite their families' hatred, Romeo and Juliet secretly marry, hoping their love will bring peace. However, a series of misunderstandings leads to their untimely deaths, teaching a lessons about love, faith, and the cost of hatred. So the second work of William Shakespeare, which is Hamlet. So Hamlet is a story of power, revenge, and madness. Prince Hamlet of Denmark seeks to revenge his father's murder after learning that his uncle, now king, is the killer. Torn between action and hesitation, Hamlet's quest for justice ends in tragedy, with nearly everyone, including himself, dead. So it explores themes of betrayal, corruption, and the human struggle between thoughts and actions. So the second famous authors of Renaissance literature, which is Miguel de Cervantes. So Miguel de Cervantes, a Spanish writer, often called the father of the modern novel. So Miguel de Cervantes' his novel tells the humorous yet touching tale of Don Quixote. So a man who reads too many books about knights and decides to become one himself. Wearing old armor and riding a thin horse, he sets out to fight for justice with his loyal but practical squire. Sancho Panza, Don Quixote often mistakes ordinary things, like windmills for giants. The story shows the contrast between dreams and reality, and how idealism, thus foolish at times, can be noble and inspiring. So the third one is the third famous authors of Renaissance literature, which is Niccolo Machiavelli. So Niccolo Machiavelli, an Italian philosopher and writer known for his ideas about politics and leadership. So Niccolo Machiavelli, his works is titled The Prince. So unlike the other works, The Prince is not a story but a political guidebook. Machiavelli wrote it to teach rulers how to gain and keep power. He argues that a leader should be strong, clever, and sometimes ruthless. He famously says it is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. The book reflects the realistic and practical side of Renaissance thought about politics and leadership. And the next reporter will be Ms. Capulis.
Good morning, everyone. Today, we will be exploring the fascinating world of Renaissance literature, focusing on the themes of humanism, individualism, and reason. The Renaissance was a time of great cultural and intellectual change in Europe, marked by a revival of classical Greek and Roman influences. This era saw the emergence of humanism, individualism, and reason, which are reflected in the literature of the time. The Renaissance was a time of great transformation in Europe. The Black Death had ravaged the continent, leading to a renewed focus on human life and potential. The rediscovery of classical texts and the invention of the printing press facilitated the spread of ideas, contributing to the growth of humanism, individualism, and reason. This era saw significant advancements in art, science, and exploration, with figures like Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo Galilei, and Christopher Columbus pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and achievement. Now let's start with humanism. Please read the definition and examples. Thank you. Humanism emphasized the value and potential of human beings. It celebrated human dignity, worth, and the pursuit of knowledge. Literature from this era explores human emotions, morality, and the human condition. Shakespeare's Hamlet is a prime example, delving into the complexities of human nature. The writings of Petrarch and Boccaccio also exemplify humanist ideals, emphasizing the importance of classical learning and human achievement. Next, let us proceed with individualism. It was celebrated the unique qualities and experiences of individuals. Literature from this era often explores personal struggles, ambitions, and desires, as seen in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. The Renaissance also saw the rise of autobiographies and personal writings as individuals began to reflect on their own experiences and emotions. This focused on individualism and contributed to the growth of a more personal and introspective literature. The next one is reason. Reason played a significant role in Renaissance literature, as writers began to question traditional authority and seek answers through human reason. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, or Julius Caesar, rather, is a great example, exploring the complexities of power and politics. The scientific discoveries of Galileo Galilei and the philosophical writings of Descartes and Machiavelli also reflect the emphasis on reason and intellectual inquiry during this era. Now let us proceed with Shakespeare's works. So these are his works. Shakespeare's works are a testament to the Renaissance emphasis on humanism, individualism, and reason. His plays explore the complexities of human nature, emotions, and experiences, offering insights into the human condition. From the introspective Hamlet to the passionate Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare's works continue to captivate audiences with their nuanced portrayal of human emotions and experiences. To sum it up, Renaissance literature offers a fascinating glimpse into human nature, exploring themes that continue to resonate with audiences today. The emphasis on humanism, individualism, and reason contributed to more personal and introspective literature as seen in the works of Shakespeare and other Renaissance writers. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the world of Renaissance literature.